Hello and welcome back. In the immediate previous two videos, we discussed exploratory and descriptive study designs. In this video, you will be familiarizing experimental research. Experimental designs are conducted to infer causality. Experiments are conducted to be able to predict or explain phenomena. Typically, an experiment is constructed to be able to explain some kind of causation. Experimental research is important to society. It helps us to improve our everyday lives. It's a systematic and scientific approach to research in which researcher manipulates one or more variables that are independent variables and controls and measures any change in other variables. Those are dependent variables. In other words, it's a blueprint of the procedure that enables the researcher to test his hypothesis by reaching valid conclusions about relationships between two sets of variables. There are three necessary conditions for making causal inferences: concomitant variation, time order of occurrence of variables, and the absence of other possible causal factors. The first condition implies that causes and effect variables should have high correlation. The second condition means that causal variable must occur prior to or simultaneously with effect variables. The third condition means that all other variables except the one whose influence we are trying to study should be absent or kept constant. A simple useful example would be to think of how changes in price would influence sales. I hope you studied law of demand, which states that demand for a commodity responds inversely to price variation. Keeping this relationship in mind, a researcher can collect information on various price levels of a commodity and the respective sales data. A simple regression analysis will enable him or her to infer the nature and magnitude of impact of price variation on sales. Let's take another example. We can conduct an experiment investigating how self-efficacy might influence employees' attitude towards their job. Self-efficacy is a person's confidence and belief in their own ability to accomplish the tasks at hand. Here, self-efficacy is an antecedent to job performance. We can conduct this experiment with workers having specialized skills. Using any relevant attitudinal scale, information can be collected from subjects, and the same can be statistically tested. There are two conditions that should be satisfied while conducting an experiment. These are internal validity and external validity. Internal validity tries to examine whether the observed effect on a dependent variable is actually caused by the treatments that are independent variables in question. Without internal validity, the experiment gets confounded. External validity refers to the generalization of the results of an experiment. The concern is whether the result of an experiment can be generalized beyond the experimental situation. It is decided to have an experiment that is valid both internally and externally. Let's summarize the key points learned in the video. We studied the concept and meaning of experimental research. This type of study can explain some kind of causation. An experiment is to be valid both internally and externally.